Shalom Aleichem, everyone. Hope everyone had a wonderful, wonderful week. This week's Dvar Torah, Isaacsonian, is dedicated by the Strobel family, Aryeh Strobel, dear Talmud, dear alumnus, Lilu Nishmas, Asher Dov ben Reuven Ephraim, Aryeh's brother Asher, who was taken from us in an untimely fashion. And the Dvar Torah is dedicated by the Strobel family, Lilu Nishmas Asher Dov, and Asher Dov his neshama should have a real aliyah. It is very, very striking. The Torah tells us in Parshas Vaera, we're introduced a little bit to the background of the Shvatim, and only over here are we told that Bnei Kas had a son named Amram, Yitzhar, Chevron, Uziel, and then we are told, Vayikach Amram es Yocheved, Amram took Yocheved, Doda so lo liisha, Vateled lo es Aaron ves Moshe, and we're told that Amram and Yocheved were the parents of Aaron, were the parents of Moshe, and this is the first time we're introduced to Amram, the father of Moshe Rabbeinu. And that's striking because in last week's parsha, when we are introduced to Moshe, when we hear about Moshe's birth, so Amram and Yocheved are referred to in a very, very anonymous fashion. We're told, Vayelech ish mi beis Levi, vayikach es bas Levi, vatara isha, vateled ben, vatera oso ki tovu, vatitzpenei shlosha yerachim. And the question is an obvious one, is once we're being told of the birth of Moshe in last week's parsha, Perek Beis of Sefer Shmos, so why the anonymity over there, and only now in Perek Zayin Pasuk Chav does the Torah reveal to us who exactly this Ish mi Beis Levi is? Why are we delaying that? And I think there are two ideas over here. Idea number one is a Moshe Rabbeinu idea, an idea that we want to highlight. The Torah wants to highlight for us in the beginning of Moshe's birth that Moshe, in a certain sense, had very much a dual identity. He was born, no doubt, to Jewish parents, to a mother from Beis Levi, to a father from Beis Levi, placed in a teva, and then Bas Paro reaches out for him and pulls him in, and she's the one who raises him. There's an anonymity. She's the one who gives him his name. She seeks someone to nurse him, and she calls to an Isha mi ha-Yehudim, and indeed Moshe's biological mother Yocheved will nurse him, but he's raised in both ways. He's raised as the Prince of Egypt, as a Mitzri, and he's raised by his Jewish mother. And I think the reason that the Torah emphasizes that Moshe is named by Bas Paro and his birth in anonymity is to highlight in a certain sense this dual identity. In that famous medrash where Moshe is given by Paro, there's a pile of gold, a pile of coals, and which one is he going to reach for, highlights this dual identity. The gold represents the riches of the palace of Paro. The coals represent the slavery. Who is Moshe? What is he all about? And then as he goes out to the fields, to the places of work, of labor, of persecution, Vayar B'sivlosam, he sees the suffering of his brothers. He starts to identify fundamentally as a Jew, and it wants to highlight for us that innate nature of Moshe Rabbeinu to kind of forge his core Jewish identity, because he had this duality. He was both raised adoptively in the house of Paro, but he was certainly a biological Jew, and he has to pick his side, and he does so obviously with his sense of chesed, trying to go ahead and help his brethren who are suffering. Another idea, this is what Rabbi Fran develops, a very beautiful concept, is that why do we wait till now to recognize Amram and Yocheved as Moshe Rabbeinu's mother? So he suggests the following idea, is when Moshe Rabbeinu was born, he is basically and any babies like this, is if you will, a blob of potential. A young child, a newborn, is all potential. And Moshe's potential was great. It was clear. The whole house was illuminated kitov, but it was just potential. And year after year, Moshe grows and he develops. And in this week's parsha, when he begins his career as the one who's going to go to Paro and is going to go ahead and demand the salvation of the Jewish people, he's 80 years old. Now that he's 80 years old, it's not just potential anymore. Moshe has he's forged his identity as a manig of Klal Yisrael, as a leader, as the person who's going to bring the Jews out of Mitzrayim, as the Mekabel HaTorah, and he's forged his identity. Now it's not just potential, it is realized potential. And now, if you will, the mission and the accomplishments of his mother and father, Amram and Yocheved, are fully recognized. Because to have a baby, to have a child, yeah, that might be an elementary kiyum of the mitzvah pruvu. But the real mitzvah pruvu, what it's really all about, is to raise the child, to develop the child, to enable the child to become special, to become great, to start, to accomplish. And that's really the message over here, is the accomplishments. Now Moshe has begun his career. Now that we see what Moshe is all about, now we can recognize his parents for everything that they did. And this is what Rabbeinu Bachai writes in the beginning of Sefer Bereshis. Every day is called, in its creation, Ki Tov, just like Moshe Rabbeinu was called Ki Tov. It was just potential. The last day when it all came together, Hashem says Tov Ma'od. And the word Ma'od suggests now that potential in a harmonious way is starting to be realized. When man can now take those raw materials and Adam and Chava can now do something with them, that's the realization of that potential. And that already brings us to a whole new level of Tov Ma'od. Moshe Rabbeinu spends a good part of his younger years forging who he's all about. And then he begins his career, then his potential starts to be realized. And that's when his parents get recognized for their tremendous role in bringing him to that place. And so it is in all of life. Yes, it's Hashem, we have children, and we get things started. There's a potential there. But the real work is after that child is born, the nurturing, the caring, the giving constantly to enable that potential to start to be realized. When a parent starts marrying off his children, and he knows at that point he can take a breath of fresh air and say, wow, I've kind of sent him on his way. Now he can open up his wings and fly on his own. That's when a parent can get recognized for the tremendous accomplishments that he has achieved in raising that child from a small little bundle, beautiful bundle of potential, to something, to a child, to a human being that now realizes that potential and can soar on his own.